Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of our Q&A. If you didn't watch the first one, I'll link it down below, so make sure you go check it out because we had a lot of great questions and I think a lot of great answers. From the feedback we got from you guys, you really loved the video. So this is part 2 of that Q&A. So Nikole is back here to...
I haven't gone anywhere.
She hasn't gone anywhere. We just filmed it all at once. But yeah, let's just hop right into the questions. We got some great questions about real estate, about business, about working together as a couple, about e-commerce. So
there's some juicy ones.
Yeah, some really good questions.
Right into it.
So let's hop right in. How many properties do you want to own and rent out to others? I don't think we've ever sat down and said like, I want 100 properties. Mm-hmm. You know, there's not really a number on it. It's just we want to keep growing our portfolio as much as it makes sense. You know, but like anything, if we grew it to a huge size, there's headaches that come along with it. So, you know,
more isn't necessarily better.
More isn't better.
Depends,
more money,
like,
more
I
problem.
Guess,
more money, more problem.
I guess it depends what your end goal is, and that's something that like I know Matt has been really working on. Like I think in the beginning you were just like you would get inspired by other investors. Like I need this many properties to be successful. Yeah. And it can be kind of addicting sometimes. I think like buying houses is like getting a tattoo. You're like, when's the next one, you know?
Yeah, very true.
But I think it's important. Like I know you had a discussion with one investor that was like, so like, but what's your goal? Is it to buy a certain amount of houses that will pay for your dream house? Is it like, what is the end goal? And then once you know that, you can kind of work backwards, figure out like, well, what do you need to do to get there? Because you might only, as an investor, you're like, 2 houses is good. Yeah. I'm cash flowing well.
For everyone, it's different, right? So yeah, 1, 2, 3 houses. I mean, 3 great houses paid off in full, you know, is a great retirement plan. So that's a perfect, could be a perfect amount. I mean, for us, it really just, we'll keep growing until we decide that we're at a point that we don't need to grow anymore. And for us, really, I mean, I think the end goal is we'll keep growing our portfolio, keep having the mortgages paid down, keep having the properties go up in value. But in the end, I don't want to be managing properties forever because it brings headaches and it brings, you know, a bunch of pain in the butt. So in the end, it's just keep growing our portfolio and over time we'll sell it off and we'll take that profit and then we're going to do more private lending. We're going to lend that money out to other investors at a good 10, 12% interest. You know, over time, you're going to be sitting there and that's real passive income, lending the money out to someone else. Like, you know, I know one of the other questions, which I guess I can say now is real estate passive income? No, it's not. I think, to be honest, I mean, you'll see that in a lot of other people's maybe videos or you see it on HGTV, like real estate passive income. It's not passive.
Passive income's like you don't have to do anything.
Passive is you just sit there and it just money comes in and it's run. I mean, there's ways to maybe have it be pretty passive where you're only putting in a couple of hours of, you know, work in a week, but in the end, there's still stuff that needs to be done. Like, even if you're not managing things yourself, you're still managing the manager of that stuff. So there's always something to be involved. And that's what I'm saying for our real estate portfolio. In the end, it's just we're going to keep growing it to a point that we're comfortable with. And then eventually our exit strategy is going to be just to sell them off and take those profits. And we're just going to lend that money out at a good interest rate to other investors who are at that growth stage in their life to keep growing. And then we'll really have more of a passive income coming in because it'll just be monthly income being deposited into our account every month. So that's really what we're working towards.
Like if we see if we see a good opportunity, and part of it's kind of like a game, I guess. Like in my mind, it's like you see a good price for something, you're like, ooh, and you kind of think about what it could be. Okay, you just need to change this and that, and then you could like flip it or rent it, or it's like a fun strategy game.
True.
Obviously, you're dealing with like real money and stuff, and you want to make sure it's an educated decision. But like, we do have fun with it. It's an enjoyable thing, and I think until it gets to like not being an enjoyable thing, you know, we may change our mind about that.
Yeah, exactly. How much time does it take to be a landlord, and do you hire it out? So this question really depends on what type of properties that you're getting into. So all I can say is that I think the most important thing to minimize the amount of time that you spend as a landlord really comes down to that initial filtering process. So who you're putting in, that time that you take to make sure you're placing a really good tenant in is the most important thing. And it's really going to minimize the amount of time that you spend. So we still pretty much self-manage all of our own properties, except for a few that are in Alberta. But we did manage those for a long time as well. We just handed that off I think last year actually.
We're so picky with tenants.
Yeah.
Like on paper, if we get a vibe, like
yes, exactly. The filtering process is like the most important thing. So because we took that extra time to filter people, ask good questions, check their credit, do reference checks, we have very little issues with our tenants. Like even with the recent pandemic going on, like none of our tenants missed a payment. There was one that maybe said, I need to pay you half now and I'll pay you half a little bit later on once I get it. That was one person out of our whole portfolio. Because we filtered people who have, like good character, like I said, we checked their credit, we checked their job stability. It basically has allowed us to have very limited involvement in our properties outside of just once in a while where it's like, oh, hey, we're noticing this. I was going to say that's another important thing too, is like if you can put people into your property, you're going to treat it like their own home. That's important too.
We just had a tenant ask, we were supposed to technically paint the house last summer, but just things came up and we didn't get to it.
Yeah.
And, he treats our property like his home, like so much that he had asked if we can get it painted this year. And like, yes, we don't have to paint, you don't have to paint a house, but we love that he really treats it like his own
takes
home.
Pride in ownership.
The other thing I think is important to mention is like we would rather a property be vacant for months than quickly putting someone in that's no good. When we at one of our last real estate network events, I was talking to someone who recently had a bad experience, and you're always wondering how did you get there? How did you get a bad tenant? What was your process? And he even admitted oh, you know what? I was kind of quick to place him.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. And that's usually the case. So don't be scared about just getting a bad tenant. And I know this is kind of a different question, but it's better to have a vacant home than a person and a headache. That's going to cost you more money down the line.
Very true. So that's why it's important when you get into a property to make sure you have a little bit of a nest egg, an emergency fund that will allow you to actually hold the property for a few months without a tenant in, so you're not rushed to just stressed and just throwing someone in because you need to. Because I would say probably 99% of the time that people have a big headache, it's because of that. They just threw someone in because they needed to start getting that check right away. They didn't filter the person properly. They didn't wait until they found a good person that fit for that property. And that's when the headaches come. So great point.
That's
great
your
point.
home. That home was a lot of money for you. So worrying about that monthly payment, that's a small amount compared to what you put down to buy the house. So so don't be scared of
property management. I think as long as you take that initial time to put a good person into the property, very minimal involvement at that point that we found, right? And we have a number of properties and we have had a number of tenants. So, because we've selected people good, never had to go to the tenant board, never had to really evict anyone. It's been a very good, smooth process for us. What do you suggest buying as a rental property? So I'm assuming this is probably for someone's maybe their first rental property or whatever, but what do you suggest buying? Condo, single family home, etc. This is a tough one to answer as well, because it kind of really depends on where you live and what makes sense in your area. So, I would probably rather own a single family home over a condo, for example, if it worked, both properties being the exact same. I'd rather have a single family home over a condo, because single family home, I have a piece of land. I could, if I wanted to, I could tear it down and build something bigger. I could maybe sever the land, split it up and do 2 properties or 2 houses on that one piece of land. So you have more flexibility with a single family home with land than you do with a condo, which is just a box in the sky. That being said, some markets you can't buy a single family home and actually cash flow and run a viable business with it. So a condo makes more sense.
And I will say too, I feel maybe you were the one that made me feel this way, but I feel like we used to be anti investing in condos, because we're just oh no, we don't want to deal with the maintenance fees and all that. But oddly enough, a lot of our portfolio is condos in downtown Toronto.
We do have condos, because in Toronto, condos made sense over a single family home. Mm-hmm. Single family home, we couldn't make that work, so we got a few condos. We love the market. We know appreciation's there, so we did that. But I would say in general, if I was just to say, it's your first property and you're really looking to buy, I would say if you can and you're comfortable with it, I would always look for a multifamily home of some sort, whether it's a house with a basement apartment, you're living upstairs, you rent the basement, or if you're just renting it completely, you can rent both and get double income. If you could go up to a 4-plex or a 5-plex, sometimes you can go up to a 6-plex and still do high ratio if you have that option and you're comfortable with it. Economy of scale, it's always better to own a bigger property with all tenants under one roof instead of 6 houses with 6 different tenants and 6 different roofs. So that's just my opinion on it, but it really does vary on where you are, how much cash you have, and what you can make work. But in general, if you can make it work, I always think multifamily is a better investment.
Mm-hmm. I do think like in the best scenario is like buying a house that you can live in the upstairs, rent the basement.
Yeah, that's definitely a great first start for people, because then you can get a feel for like property management, because you'll have a tenant underneath you, but you're there, so you can be on top of it a lot better than you could if it was an out of city, a different city, or out of province investment property. So yeah, no, I agree 100% there. How many side hustles do you have? What are all your side jobs? I don't even know.
Just taking care of cashew count.
What do we have? How many side hustles? So we just had to think about it for a second, because we have quite a few. I mean, we have the online store. We have 2 online stores technically.
I know.
We always neglect the pup shop, but we do have 2 online stores. We have
2 YouTube channels now.
We have 2 YouTube channels. I mean, even with the online store, we have the Beauty Nut. So we have like the natural skincare line, which has a subscription service with it, which is almost its own separate entity. We've got the cookbook, which is another avenue of revenue.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we're missing. I don't know. There's always new things that are popping up that we're discussing. Like we have so many future ideas. Like even just like the email list and all of that is like a separate thing. Yeah, the blog,
true. Affiliate marketing, the website,
Instagram is its own thing. But yeah, the website. Like I don't know. There's probably like 10 things that we do.
Yeah, I'd say there's at least
parents. That's gonna be a new job.
I'd say there's at least 10 side hustles that we have on the go. And then probably another stack that we want to get into. Like, I know we want to add Amazon, like being an Amazon seller to like our portfolio of side hustles. We want to courses. We want to start creating some courses. Airbnb once things are a little bit back to normal.
We were about to start
a month before COVID. We were like setting up an Airbnb, and then we luckily were able to get out and we
like to the point where we had bought furniture.
Yeah, starting to buy furniture.
Like that's where we were at. So there's always things popping up, and I think what's important to know is that like when you are running a business, especially online, I guess like any business, diversify.
Yeah,
very
important.
Look at Blockbuster. They didn't go digital, and it's like you want to make sure you're diversifying, because if tomorrow YouTube ain't a thing. First off, I'm going to cry because I love YouTube. But if YouTube's not a thing, we have other sources of revenue and other things to keep us, occupied. But we're always like, we're never short of ideas.
No, and we'll probably continue to expand like the real estate side of things, like probably do mortgage broker, get back into that. I haven't done that for a while. Real estate agent. I mean, there's so many things consulting, offering one-on-one coaching for people. There's a lot of avenues that we want to like just continue to grow. We're just going to like slowly add them one at a time. So
we do a lot. That probably confused you so much.
Yeah, I was like, so it's the answer 10. just cut it and just say 10 and move on to the next. Since we're on the topic of side hustles, how do you get started on your side hustle when working full time? So that's a great question. That's a good question. I think.
Asked.
Yeah. So I think the important thing to remember is that everyone has the same amount of time in a day, 24 hours. We all share the same amount of time. So I think the most important thing is I would probably say your first thing that you'd want to do is maybe do an audit of your time. Like, how do you spend your time in a day currently? So, really break it down by every 15 minutes. Like, what did you do in that 15 minutes? What did you do in the next 15 minutes? If you actually were to take it and break it down to see, well, how much time am I wasting scrolling through Instagram? How much time am I wasting checking emails unnecessarily? How much time am I wasting watching TV?
Scrolling through TikTok.
So I think unless like unless you know where your time is being spent, it's kind of hard to say, okay, well, how am I going to add this side hustle to my time? So if
everyone thinks they're so, I hate the word busy. Everyone's like, oh, I'm so busy. And, and it's all relative because, there's been times where I've been busier than others and I've still been able to like do more in the same amount of time.
Yeah. So I think that's why it's important. If you know where your time is being spent, then you know how you can add something new to your time. So if you were to audit your time and you were to find out, man, I spend 3 hours a day watching TV at the end of the day, fair enough. Everyone needs to decompress, and maybe that's how you decompress. But if you actually want to add a side hustle, if you're actually serious about adding a side hustle and doing more with your time, then you need to be honest with yourself, and you need to understand like what's the most important thing to you. So if you are, for example, like a lot of people spending 3-4 hours of your evening watching TV, well, where's that getting you? And how, unless you cut some of that out to give yourself an extra hour for, to start working on your side hustle, then you're never going to get there if you just keep doing things the way you're doing. So
I think let's give an example. So when I was working full-time in my corporate marketing job, I would then go home instead of just like going for happy hour drinks or just like going to watch Netflix. I would go home, probably, decompress for like a little bit, eat dinner, and then I'd be working till midnight every night on my business.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun. I had to say no to a lot of things, make a lot of sacrifices, but I was so passionate about what I was doing. It wasn't even a choice in my mind to give it up because I was tired because of my main job. I thought if I have to give up one, it's going to be like my marketing job, but also that's what was funding. Like I needed both in order for my side hustle to survive. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of just like a shitty part of your life when you're balancing both. You need the funds from the main job to supplement the side hustle, and it's like growing pains. You just have to go through it.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. I'd be so exhausted sometimes, and I would make sure to give myself breaks. But like the reality is like most entrepreneurs have been through that stage of growing their business.
Yeah, no, totally. And even you would work on the commute, like on the train. So totally other people you see on the train are sleeping, listening to music, staring out the window.
I would be working on my laptop, like Matt said, while everyone else was just chilling. Oh, we got Cash in the room. But it's just sacrifices you make. Like, of course I wanted to just pass out, but I had 3 hours of commute time, basically an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back, which is so much time, and I just utilized that to work on the business. we got a cashinator here. Hi, Cashew.
So I think, to just summarize all that, you can definitely find time to add a side hustle to your life. You just need to, just get honest with yourself about where you're spending your time. And if it's really important to you, then you'll find extra time. You'll cut something else that's maybe not helping you grow to where you want to grow to. So just look to figure out where you're spending your time. So here's another one kind of on that. Did you ever feel like you weren't working hard enough? Yeah, every day. Every day. I'd say every day we feel like we're not working hard enough. We could do more. We could do better. So I think just something to keep in mind with that is that everyone feels that way at some point in time or another. Everyone feels like they could do more. They're not doing enough. And like, that's okay. I think as long as you're doing a couple of things a day to help move you forward in that direction, you should be just happy about that. Right?
What I like to do is I write a list, not even sometimes just before I start my work day, but even after, if I feel like, what did I even get done today? I write a list of everything I did, and then I go in and I check it off, and it feels so satisfying. Yeah. I'm like, holy, I did so much today. So sometimes like all those little tasks that you do, you forget about until you actually write them down and see them like on paper. And that just helps me feel like I accomplished something that day.
How many properties do you currently have? So, we want to be as transparent as we can. So we have 9 properties right now. We have 7 that are like built, active, rented out, people living in them. And then we have 2 that are still pre-construction condos that will probably be complete in, I think, probably 2022. We were just picking out the finishings the other day. You might have saw that on my Instagram.
We'll put it, follow on Instagram. We'll put that post here.
So 9 properties in total, 7 fully rented, 2 pre-constructions. Total portfolio value is like just about $5 million that we have in real estate.
Which feels so, like, honestly, when people ask, like, how many properties do you have? I feel like such a, like, I don't know what the word
bougie.
is.
Yeah, you're $5 million in real estate, but.
Yeah, but we know what we've done to get to it,
exactly.
So it doesn't feel like, oh, we have 9 houses. It's like, you know, we're like, oh yeah, we have 9. Like, and you know, it's just, I hate telling people because it sounds like you're
It sounds
bragging.
weird, but once again, we're saying like trying to break that stigma
If
and
we
just
can
be
do it,
open,
anyone can do
transparent
it.
about
Yeah.
like money and stuff as well. Because I think like when I watch other people who talk about their business and their money and how they make it, like I find it inspiring. It's not like, it doesn't seem weird to me, right? So we want to kind of replicate that and inspire you guys. So
But Matt's going to be doing a full breakdown video. He's been teasing it. It's coming. It's going to be a good one. So
yes,
stay tuned.
I'm excited for it. Did you ever do jobs you didn't like just to earn money? I mean, ton.
Can we just like talk about the jobs we've done?
Well, I just say to point out, like neither of us comes from money, so both of us are, low to middle income families.
What was your first job ever?
My first gas station. I worked at a gas station back when it was mostly self-serve.
How old were you?
I think I was like 14 or 15. So I just pumped gas. Yeah.
My first job. Well, okay. Besides,
and dishwasher. I did dishwashing
Before
quite a
that,
few
or?
times. I did dishwashing a couple of times in a couple of different restaurants. I hated that.
I mean, you are good at the dishes, so.
Yeah.
You must have packed groceries at one point because you're such.
I
a
did.
good
I worked at a
packer.
grocery store.
Yeah. See, vital skills. He's the best packer.
Yes.
I did like the worst job I had was a paper route. I swear that's child labor. Like that, you get like 5 cents a paper. It was the worst job ever. I babysat, and then my first like official job, I worked at KFC. Funny enough.
Yeah.
And then can we talk about like the jobs we even did or you did in Australia? Like,
I mean, I've worked in a lot of factories. I've worked in warehouses. I've worked in a steel mill factory. So yes, we've done a ton of crappy jobs because
I did a lot of retail. Retail will teach you so many skills. Like our baby girl, I told Matt this morning, she's going to be doing retail because you got to learn
some skills for sure.
You know, it can be hard work. You got to listen to someone else and long hours. I remember when I used to work at Gene Machine, which actually like ended up closing down a couple of years ago. But we would do it was called slams. So you would work 9 to 9, and I would do 2 of those a week.
Wow.
2 12-hour shifts. And you know what I got for break time? 1/2 hour and a 15-minute.
I think that's illegal.
I'm the slowest eater ever.
Yeah.
That was not enough time to eat. Anyways, just saying.
So yes, we've done a lot of jobs that we didn't like, but I think, I mean, like I said, we don't come from money, so it was a necessity. We had to do it to get to where we are today. So I don't feel, I don't know what the word is. Like I don't begrudge that we had to do that work.
I
it
laugh
was
about
just
it.
part of what we needed to do to get to where we are today. So, doing those jobs and seeing some things that I saw, it allowed me to kind of be inspired to want more for my life. So I'm pretty grateful that I actually worked some of those jobs. Okay, so I feel like we haven't really done many questions yet, or any at all, on e-commerce or the online store really. So what do we have here?
Yeah, there was a couple of questions.
There's a couple of good questions. Best tips for launching a new e-commerce store. Where did the money for your shop come from? Owner's equity or borrowed capital? So we'll kind of combine those two. My best tip for an online store is to start small. I mean, there's some great resources out there. Like we started with just 2 products for our store, a water bottle and a gemstone bracelet. We started with those 2 products just so we could get a feel for it, build the website, work on logistics, figure out how shipping works, how you want your packaging to be. So we started small and just did a couple of products. And then even after that, once we started doing a little bit more, we used AliExpress instead of, a lot of people have heard of Alibaba, which is normally bigger quantities. So we did find some products off AliExpress that allowed us to add a few new products to the store with very little financial output to start. And then just over time, it kind of grew and we got into wholesaling some other people's products. So for me, the best advice is just start small, figure things out. You don't have to dump a lot of capital into an online store to get things started. Oh yeah, so where the capital came from for the store, it was just, we used credit cards and we used line of credits and just borrowed the money to start the store. And then as we sold those products and made a bit of profit on it, we would pay off that debt and buy a little bit more, and then again, and then a little bit more, and again. Yeah. So really, it took us...
And we really only got into the green, because like, obviously, the more product you get, the more you have to
the more you got to spend
to get the product, and then you're waiting to sell it, and then it sells, and then you're having to buy other product. It's like a vicious cycle. But we only just got into the green with the shop like this year. So it takes
it took a good year before we were actually making like what I consider like a profit, right? Where we're actually like, oh, we're actually in the green and we have money and we have the inventory that we have is already paid for. So it took a while, but also on top of that, we had all the other projects that we were working on as well. So, we didn't really, it wasn't our main thing that we were focusing 100% of energy on.
Yeah.
So you definitely could grow something a lot quicker than we could if it was your main thing and you were just driving and pushing for that.
And I will say too, it's so important that, really whatever business you're doing is to have a social media presence as well. So make sure you're building your Instagram account and don't just like talk about this products that you're selling, but like actually have like a person, like a personality behind the brand, like whether that's the owner, whatever it is, make sure you're talking about the products, you're posting lifestyle content and not just like a stock photo of this is a new product that we have. People want to follow people, not things, and that doesn't change when it comes to a shop that you're selling. Do things like giveaways and just engage with your audience on social media. Don't just think you're going to pop up a shop and people are going to find it, because that's not the case.
Yeah, no, that's a great point too.
We've been really fortunate that we've kind of leaned off of our main business, or one of our main businesses, HealthNut Nutrition, for marketing. If you didn't have that already built up audience, you probably want to do, we've dabbled in Facebook marketing and stuff, ads, but really not a ton. That's something we want to do more of. But if you don't have an already built up audience, then you want to look at ads,
influencer marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Affiliates, all that, just to build that.
And I think we'll do a video for sure, just about like more about the e-commerce in the shop and some more specifics on like how we grew it and what we did. One other quick tip was just probably like look at Shopify. I'm sure if you are into e-commerce, you've probably heard of Shopify. I think most people have. Great, like a great resource. Make it very easy, very like
expensive.
It can only,
everything you need. It's like
it can get expensive as you grow the
it.
shop and you need to add like, I want to have a points program and I want to have this and I want to have that. Like, it costs to add all these different things. But in general, you can build a shop with very little financial output. There's free themes that you can use. Just pay for your domain name. Like you could probably start an online store with $100. $200 if you wanted to. So we'll do a whole video about that. I think that actually like great questions and something that we'll do. All right, so that is our Q&A. To those of you who stuck around through all these questions, thank you so much. We really hope that you got something out of it. We really just wanted to, be as transparent as we could, answer as many questions as we could. I get excited actually when people ask questions and want to know more, because I feel like it allows me to get back, because I've asked a lot of questions of a lot of people that I've looked up to and that have sort of mentored us over the years. So it's kind of nice to be able to get back.
Put that knowledge to use.
Yeah, give it back and inspire people to try to, do what we're doing. And I don't know, I really get a lot of energy from doing it. So
I know we really are passionate about what we do, which is, you can probably see it when we're answering the questions. But sometimes we feel like our day-to-day stuff is the norm, but then we realize it's not.
Yeah.
Until we're having a conversation with someone, and then we realize like, oh yeah, our life is kind of unique and weird in a way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to be able to chat about it and answer your questions for those of you who are curious, want to do the same thing, or you're just like wondering how it all works,
Yeah. So if you guys like the video, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, because there's a lot of great content that's going to be coming up. We'll talk about our whole portfolio. We'll do some videos about e-commerce, how we grew our store, give you some tips and tricks if you want to grow your own. Some videos about different side hustles that you can look to add if that's like an avenue that you're looking to go to. And if you like this Q&A, I would say let us know in the comments below as well if you want to see another one. Maybe not right away, but we can definitely do another one down the road as new questions come up.
Yeah, I'll see if I have time in my calendar.
And thank you to Miss HealthNut Nutrition Nikole for coming on to my channel and having some great answers, some great insight that I'm sure people got a lot of value from.
Sorry, I babble
High
more
five.
than Matt does.
Thank you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. High five.